coming into the day, stat called gold spent percentage difference, which is the percentage difference of your spent gold throughout the game, was only 4.8% higher than their opponents. So they've been very close in gold throughout pretty much all their games, despite remaining undefeated. Very good at team fighting, very clutch is what that tells me, but it also means they're not unbeatable in any sense of the word.
But the real question is G2 the team that may be able to do it? I mean, they've looked so shaky, only picking up their first win earlier against Supermassive, and you know, maybe this is the start of the turnaround, but it is a hell of a team to try to go up against.
It
Last
really
man
is.
now. It's over to RNG side. Yeah, this is. I do like this adaptation though. With the Twitch ban starting off, even though there's a lot available.
I mean, RNG know how to play around Twitch, and specifically the Twitch Kindred combo seems the most crazy. Banning both of them might be a little excessive, but they definitely didn't want to deal with the Twitch. It forces you into so many weird things.
And that's the Callista ban. No supports besides the Bard really taken off the board, so that's the first pick Alistar for G2.
Yeah, really heavily target banning from RNG's side, although they didn't ban Braum, which is one of Hybrid's best champions throughout the regular season.
Well, they didn't want it anyways, it's all right.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was actually a question I think that we needed to ask even in EU, that Hybrid and Alistar, not necessarily mixed as much.
Not necessarily, and I think a lot of it has to do with having to deny for Mata. They just don't want to give Mata his best support champion, so they're forced into this first pick, which if you're RNG and you can force your opponent into a first pick, that's usually a good thing.
Does give away. The Echo Graves picked up, so we may see the Nidalee for Trick. He actually had quite a lot of success on that, but as we've been seeing in this tournament, it can be a bit of a trap.
Yeah, definitely can be. Really wondering here how the team comps will come together. RNG already with two strong team fighting components. G2. Ooh, guess what?
That is a quick Azir lock-in.
Some team fighting components on this side too.
There we go. G2 definitely taking their time about the other one, but Perks just no hesitation. Give me that Azir. He wants to go shuffling.
No more Rise for him. Trying to switch it up a little bit. Didn't work out tremendously for him early on in the event.
They do lock the Lucian, and this is also a no-brainer for Emperor. He had so many picks on this champion, beyond pretty much everybody else in the European LCS, but at the same time, it has been, as you said, far and away the most contested AD carry here.
Yeah, Lucian just steadily good. Picked in every single game. Not banned, though, so...
Oh, that hover.
Xiaohu, I mean, he played the LeBlanc against Faker.
Beat him.
His LeBlanc is just so good. It would make a lot of sense here, but you would also be picking it a little early, which would give you the potential to have it countered by some other champions in it. Like, for instance, when we saw COG playing Poppy and Janna, there's some things that you can do to disrupt that, so they may still wait until their last pick to pick the Sivir. Or sorry, the LeBlanc.
The Sivir, though, they should definitely pick now. I mean, that got left up. Well, they don't have to pick it now, but it got left up, and that was something that we didn't really bring up, that Sivir, quite often banned on the last couple days of competitive play here, gets locked in this time for Woosh, and they take the Braum with it as well. So we're seeing a switch of the supports in terms of signature style.
Yeah, and a lot of the regular season, Woosh was actually subbed out for Name, and Name was the Sivir player, but they want to prove that Woosh can play Sivir, and was banned against Woosh in the finals against ADG. Again here.
Yeah, so the Nidalee does get picked up by Trick, and they take the Poppy for Kikis.
Yeah, I think it's mostly necessary for the Poppy, especially if there's going to be a LeBlanc pick for the teamfights. Poppy can be quite good in teamfights against LeBlanc.
So Xiaohu, the only question left in this pick ban is what does he take? He hovered that LeBlanc earlier, and he has been quite possibly the scariest player here on that champion.
Yeah, it's not like Poppy's a counter to it by any means. Xiaohu playing LeBlanc would be a menace here. And there it is. We get to see it again. All right.
And the crowd is loving this right now.
Oh, they should. I mean, he's had nothing but success on it. Really, they're going to be looking to find fights. They don't have super reliable initiation on the side of RNG, but they do have the ability to press R and just kind of run at them and hope that Braum can get something connected. They look at the side of G2, and they have pretty much the Alistar for their reliable initiation.
Yeah. A little bit of disengage, too, between that Alistar, between the Poppy, but
yeah,
it's maybe to be hoped they don't need it. And also, Trick, he's put himself onto this Nidalee that he is comfortable on, but they now, as a team, need to get it ahead earlier, need to start affecting lanes earlier if they want to have a chance against this ridiculously team-fighting team.
Yeah, exactly. G2 is actually in more of a siege-type situation with great disengage. That's how they're going to be looking to play.
Yeah, I've seen them start to adapt to that macro style. And G2 representing the European LCS, only one win on the board so far. Big shocker to a lot of fans. We will see if they can triumph in this one. And if you guys think that they can take over the Rift here, tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag G2win. Or if you think that the hometown heroes will walk away with another victory, hashtag RNG win. And of course, with that head-to-head, RNG own the Rift.
Yeah, we're going to see the rematch of these two teams. Remember, for these two teams, they are only halfway through the midseason invitational, so they will be coming in and starting their second half. And it's definitely not over till it's over. It's actually only half over right now.
Yeah,
so
and we've seen a lot already.
1-4 record versus those 5-0 record, both things can change fairly substantially as we see the ownage of the Rift there by the LPL.
Home base for them, RNG rushing out the gates to start this one off, up against Europe's G2. We'll see what they can get done. So far, so standard. We'll have our line of scrimmage.
We got to see COG lane swapping against Supermassive, and that, I think, should be one of the adjustments by a lot of the teams who have lane swapping as one of their strengths as we move farther into MSI here, is they should actually be forcing the lane swaps, and G2 have been complimented heavily on their ability to lane swap, but then also play quickly, and RNG have been criticized. But RNG has also been very clever at level 1 in a lot of games, and this is actually the move. They push up their mid lane and have Xiaohu fight, which gives RNG time to try and sneak into the side brush, but I believe they got caught by a ward this time.
Yeah, G2, this time a little wise to the tricks. Perks will back away a little bit early on this. And everything else is going to settle into the good old standard play of the game. We will not see those lane swaps happening, at least not yet. Or rather we might, because Kikis is bot side. And there we go.
Yeah.
So Emperor and Hybrid are taking this path.
Exactly. I think it's in G2's best interest to lane swap. And it's weird because they are technically against a Sivir, which is... Okay, Crepper will probably kill me if I say it's in G2's best interest to lane swap because he loves talking about the 2v2 matchups. And yes, in a straight-up 2v2, the Lucian crushes the Sivir.
Yeah. Well, none of these games are going to be straight up, though.
But then you could also just factor in the fact that if G2 can move around the map more and force that type of game, that would also advantage them. And at the very start here, they're trying to push him off the red.
They might do it. Okay,
that's
smite. MLXG is able to secure his own buff, but a little bit of harassment there. They will lose out on some of this farm because Wooge and Mata already down on that bottom side doing exactly what they needed to do, which is freezing.
Yeah. So Wooge going to be able to farm up, Emperor as well. And even if Lucian and Sivir meet each other later, if they're not exactly in the laning phase, you can still get the advantage matchup of the Lucian to be able to beat the Sivir in duels. But we do have lane swaps.
Yeah. We'll take a look at mid since Perks is stepping forward. MLXG was waiting in the wings, and they pull the trigger. Oh so quick! A 2.5-minute first blood for MLXG.
The level 2 gank! Who does that anymore?
Nobody expects it, but Perks is already having a rough time.
You know who could expect it? It's Kikis. He used to run stuff like Twisted Fate jungle and run mid lane to first blood people, but this was just standard Graves LeBlanc. Flash in, get the kill, put Perks all the way on tilt if they want to, and he's up here trying to play aggressive because they had just harassed him on red buff, so they didn't expect MLXG to be coming back here, but a really easy gank right there for him with Perks' positioning in lane.
Both his summoners too, and now with the swap back, RNG and G2 should be pretty even on the towers, but that first blood gold to MLXG on a Graves, I mean, that's already worrying.
I do have to say though, like that is such a weird gank to predict if you're in G2's shoes because especially in the European and North American LCS, lane swapping just felt so automatic by the end of the regular season, where you would split the map. I would call it strong side, weak side, and that's where the strong side is where you have more people. You have 4 people on the side of the map, and you usually just kind of ward it up, and you always cheat to that side of the lane. Well, Perks was cheating to that side of the lane, but didn't have it warded up, so he expected MLXG to be participating in the lane swap, doing the standard lane swap that everyone has done hundreds of times in practice, but they didn't. RNG plays a different game, and it completely throws Perks for a loop and gives RNG first blood.
And this is part of why RNG has had such unprecedented success here at the midseason invitational. Undefeated team, and that's already a good start for them going forward into this one. Another thing that's really good is Wujin has got himself not only a CS lead, but he picks up the call a little bit earlier. Okay, so I guess that's not that big different because they pretty much even it out. But still, he was able to get a little bit earlier for that farm, and you can already see the difference. Emperor has not really been able to do much there, and the laning advantage, of course, is completely gone when you're not taking the 2v2.
even with the jungle attention to the mid lane, because it was rewarded with the kill, it doesn't set them behind in tempo in any way. I really just have to commend MLXG for sneaking in there and really defying the standard expectations of a lane swap. Now they have a ward there, but it wasn't where it needed to be early on.
Yeah, well, Mata's going to find it, and he will be able to clear that away himself, but G2 definitely not going to fall for the same trick twice. And speaking of trick, where's he been?
Yeah, I mean,
on the bot side.
He's been doing lane swap stuff. He's been hard farming the jungle while the other 3 people push lanes.
Oh, God. 1v1s just keep on happening. The chains are onto Perks this time. He's got still no cleanse here. He's going to have to shift sands all the way back. Gonna lose out on some farm, but this time he stays alive.
Yeah, has to recall immediately, though.
Oh, yeah, trick. Staying safe. All good things. And, yeah, swapping back and forth. So that part's still standard, but RNG still holding on to that first blood differential and the outfarm, really, that they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. At this point, you can say G2's idea to lane swap has backfired, and they should have just gone for the Lucian versus Sivir matchup. Maybe they were trying to blind swap up top lane to meet the opponent AD carry, because that happens a lot of times when you're playing Sivir. You're trying to guess and swap away from it, but that was not able to happen, obviously, and RNG keeps even turrets and then also gets the Rift Herald. So G2, on top of having the lane swapping, which they were supposed to be advantaged on, is losing this one because they give the Rift Herald without being able to take the Dragon.
Yeah, no trades available as RNG walk away with the prize. Still holding all the lanes that they really need here, and Xiaohu's still just a constant threat. When you have a 1v1 threat like this, against anybody, let alone someone as talented as Perks, it is just so rough to get ahead here, as Kikis also finds Wooge here, and he can't really do much to counteract him in that one. Spear goes flying, but Xiaohu easily stepping away from it, and the ward is still safe.
Yeah, and in this jungle matchup in particular, the Nidalee needs to be able to outpressure the Graves early, because Graves' team fighting is much better later in the game. Trick has a farm advantage over MLXG, but because of the first blood, is actually down 100 gold. But really, Trick needs to continue farming and continue applying pressure to hopefully get his lanes ahead, because that's what G2 needs to do here.
Yeah. Well, without standard laning being a thing, he's going to have to find his way into uncharted territory a little bit here with a lot of wards up. RNG can see him coming very easily here. Xiaohu jumping in, gets a combo, does not connect the chains, however, but he just keeps on trying, and even though he takes a little bit more than he gives, all said and done with the health bars, it doesn't really matter too much, and now pressuring up topside, though, is G2.
Yeah, they're going for the dive. Right here, there's a top laner all by his lonesome, and a full man gang.
Oh, Looper, he does hop over flashes. Exhaust was burned, and MLXG is here. They can't get the kill on him. They may get the tower.
Yeah, and the question will be, how much can Woosh get on the bottom side versus how many minions do they have left, and can they even take this turret?
Collateral damages. It helps clear the minions a little bit faster. They can't get the turret off of it. G2 get nothing.
Oh, man, and they have to worry about the other lanes.
Yep, Xiaohu going in again, and Perks was burning down, but not enough damage dealt. He cannot stay in this lane, and Mata and Xiaohu have a massive wave to push. G2 are back up top, though, to try and answer.
Yeah, they are able to keep 3 people up in the top lane, so they can get that top lane turret, but Woosh will be able to get a whole bunch of damage on the bottom lane turret, and most likely take it since Kikis burned his teleport to get up there in the first place.
Oh, man. Not quite 2-for-1 in turrets since the mid was saved. Perks didn't actually back on that.
Yeah, he actually took a bunch of heals from Trick so he could get the blue buff before recalling. Maybe worried about... I don't know what he'd be worried about. There's very low chance of a steal there, but...
Yeah. Well, Xiaohu could
extra
assassinate him anymore.
little bit of gold. Needs it to pick up a Stinger, actually. Hits a breakpoint. He's coming back to lane with only 25 gold, so...
So G2 definitely really put to the test here, and RNG, in G2's credit, have not extended the gold lead past much what it was before. It's 500, 600 now. I keep saying it, and then it keeps changing slightly. And RNG, despite their efforts, they still just got the 1 kill up, but it's very early. It's not even 10 minutes into this game, too, so they're still on the right track here, and G2 are going to have to find answers, especially when they need to stop this late game from happening.
Yeah, and right now they're going to try and punish Xiaohu for getting so aggressive because he's trying to style on Perks, but G2's here.
Oh, and they turn, even covering all the angles, knocking him up and about, and Trick will get his first kill of the game. To answer back, Emperor finding MLXG in this bottom side. Culling is on, heal is on. MLXG's tanking it all. He just doesn't care. The shotgun is mightier than the pistols.
Warrior completed, point blank Graves. He just blows Emperor away, but Xiaohu had gone way over aggressive in the mid lane, and that's going to be a bigger win for G2 on the mid side of the map.
Yeah, they do grab themselves that outer turret. So as we get closer to this 10-minute mark, start to test and feel the waters about. G2 get 4 turrets, RNG have 3. And it's 1 kill to 2. RNG are not immune to overstepping their bounds.
Absolutely, and we know G2 can play fast. Spawn like to call them a Chinese team of Europe a lot of the time. But
he's not wrong, that's for sure.
Yeah, they were by far the most aggressive team in Europe as far as combined kills per minute. And now Looper also seems like he's not there. G2 capitalizing on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they jump right for him, and Hybrid gets a combo, but there's not enough damage to finish him off. And with Xiaohu and Mata on their way, they think it best to back away from this one. This is also the adaptation that we have seen, though. G2 not blindly over-aggressing. And that has started to get them back into games that could be otherwise more easily lost. So obviously, it's still fairly even. In fact, G2 do have that gold lead, and they have the fan vote as well, of course, winning the hearts and minds. But Perkz has to be just so damn careful.
Yeah, this is the Twitter fan vote.
Just for the record.
The Weibo fan vote showed a little bit earlier on the other screen.
That's
I imagine
a different
it was
number.
about a 90-10 right there.
I guarantee it's a different number, but
basically Chinese Twitter right there.
I don't do math.
But G2, 61, they're doing it. They're winning. And we do also have to point out that they did also pick up their very first win today, which is good. Being able to actually win a game can play well on your mentality, and it was against Turkey's Supermassive, but that was a team who had already picked up a win, so there was legitimate threat and fear from a lot of the European region that Turkey would win that game.
Yeah. That was quite a close game, actually, all said and done, too. But G2, they are making this a very close affair also. They've not fallen far behind early. They've adapted to some of those earlier mistakes. They're going to lose out on another Dragon here, unfortunately, but they haven't given up too much in terms of kills. Or even towers. They've taken more towers than they've given.
Yep, great thing about MSI, we got a lot of close games. Everything is possible. And it's very possible that G2 can win this game. One thing that we have to point out, though, is Woosh is very far ahead of Emperor. Emperor, even though they had that close game against Supermassive, had a very poor game that time as well. Died a lot of times out of position. And here he got blown away by MLXG's Graves and is already behind on Lucian. So he doesn't look like he will be able to punish that Lucian versus Sivir matchup as of yet.
Yeah, Emperor's definitely had a rough time of it here, but at least he's on a very comfortable pickup. The Alistar for Hybrid, less comfortable, but he has executed some fantastic combos on it too. And that's what's so nice to see is the changes, the adaptations out of a team, even a team that has been as downtrodden as G2 over the past couple days, starting to come back into this one. 500 gold to lead at 12 minutes. It still hasn't shifted much, just sliding half that 1,000 one way or the other. And a lot of ward coverage, a lot of respect from G2. They know that if RNG get an opening, a blind opening, the collapse could be catastrophic.
Definitely.
Oh, Kick is going to town there. Now, Woosh and Mata, they get the ult off to try and chase down Emperor, but he's out of there.
Yeah, not a very good ultimate right there, but we're not quite in the team fight phase, so maybe RNG won't have that hurt too much. They're also able to get the second Rift Herald, which is impressive since they also have control of the bottom side of the map, so maybe they can transition some of this pressure into getting their gold lead back.
It's going to go over to MLXG. Kick is still in the top lane, just shoving Wave back and forth. And yeah, we do check in on really how much map control they've been able to establish on the side of RNG. It's been pretty phenomenal. Already extending into that bottom side jungle, still some in the river, and they kind of took that Rift Tail right from under G2's nose.
Yeah, they really did. G2 wasn't in the right territory to stop that. And RNG was able to pick up their second Rift Herald of the day, and it's going to make MLXG real force to be reckoned with. You know, swiftness boots plus Rift Herald make you so fast. He's running out of base with 435 movement speed right now, which is by far the fastest on the map.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get you places pretty quickly. But for G2, I mean, it is worth noting just how much they actually have been able to grow despite the results that you already see in their scoreboard. I mean, the last time these two met, of course, on day 2, yesterday, in fact, it was a much more one-sided affair. The game only went to about 34 minutes, and basically they just made a ton of bad decisions and then just lost off crazy fights, which was RNG's game. But now we're seeing them go toe-to-toe a little bit more. It's still pretty early in the game. Yeah. But, I mean, this is nice change from them.
Exactly. We were joking in the caster lounge about tilt, and if G2 tilts enough, they can come back to normal.
Yeah, 360.
But actually, it does look like they've made a bit of a course correction with their win over Supermassive and the way they've been able to slow this game down a little bit, initiating the lane swap, and then recovering from the incredibly surprising first blood onto Perks because of the way MLXG passed. But since that moment, G2 have played a pretty damn clean game.
And that's what's so impressive to see, that communication starting to look a lot crisper. Them executing the combos, collapsing on people, and not giving up too much in result for it, as Xiaohu goes in, can't execute Perks, but he does get half his health in the blink of an eye. Still has to be very careful, and Perks has played a lot better, even individually now, that we're seeing, despite that first blood effort.
Yeah, he's holding strong in the mid lane, just really trying to get to Nashor's Tooth plus Abyssal Scepter plus Rylai's. That's when the Zero really start getting strong.
RNG want to take this turret, though. Hybrid goes in, but an instantaneous on the hunt from Woosh to run to safety. Didn't have Spell Shield up either. He'd used it to tank the spear.
Yeah, so that was the opportunity that Hybrid was trying to capitalize on, but he just can't quite get the right one off.
These two just keep going at each other here. There's a big minion wave for Looper, but Kikis just doesn't care. It's a huge tanky poppy.
Kikis has the item advantage. His Sunfire Cape being completed is actually huge when compared to a Bomby Cinder, so he's going to be winning those duels until Looper manages to go back and complete the Sunfire.
Yeah. Taking a look, of course, between the two of them, I mean, that's not a huge gold differential, but it has resulted in that item. It's the back timings and everything that G2 just did a little bit better there to hold on in the solo lanes. But now Xiaohu has moved himself to the other solo lane, but we'll talk about that in a minute because Perks does not get the Emperor's Divide he was looking for. Mata is not able to connect enough on his ultimate, and he gets knocked right back into Perks, who takes himself his first kill of the game. Teleports flying left and right. Looper trying to assassinate, but he chrono breaks back, and Perks will live. G2 get a 1 for 9.
G2 used a lot of summoner spells in that one, but currently it's one for Xiaohu can get him!
Perks,
look at the screen!
Oh, he was caught shopping! They do answer onto Woosh, though, but Perks gets taken out by Xiaohu.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people caught shopping right there. Woosh in the jungle as well as Perks in the mid lane. We got ourselves a game, that's for sure.
Yeah, we do. 3-3. Well, what could you expect from a Chinese team and Europe's Chinese team? 16.5 minutes. Let's take a look at that one, because that was all back and forth.
Yeah, so it all starts because Perks is going for a play onto Woosh, but Spell Shield is on and he misses the ultimate as well because Woosh can sidestep, but then Mata ults and Perks is able to flash a safety, which resets the fight a little bit. And they're able to focus Mata, which is pretty critical here. But then the teleports all come in. Remember, Looper still hasn't finished his Sunfire Cape, not as strong as he'd want to be, can't burst him down. And that generally resets the fight. And it wasn't Woosh that was actually caught shopping. That was my mistake. Kikis is able to make the chase down. They're able to crush him. And it was only Perks to blame for staying in the shop window.
Yep.
Excuse Woosh. He just got chased down.
Well, he is excused. Perks, despite that death, he does have a little more gold in his pocket, thanks to the kill. So does Xiaohu, though, so everything is pretty much all said and done equal. G2, though, still with the gold lead. And it's actually grown a bit here, which is also important. It's a little over 1,000 now. Not hugely significant, but the trend is going their way. Dragon has just spawned, however, and RNG, although they took the first one, they've been controlling the Rift Heralds. Neutral objectives have been all for them right now.
Yeah.
And RNG are just waiting for a reason, or at least a moment, to go in and just assassinate someone to get that one for free.
Yeah, neither top laner have teleport right now. Xiaohu seems to be struggling a little bit more on the Blanc than he was against SKT. G2 is looking very hard to punish him when he goes in for fights. And they're keeping Perks generally safe.
Dragon started.
Yeah, and it's actually Looper who is here, but Kikis who is not. Xiaohu's around the back to try and flank. That's the LeBlanc pressure, is kind of zoning G2 out.
Does not get the steal off, and Xiaohu even holds for a moment. Now he turns his attention to Perks, and that health bar is almost 0.
Whoa!
G2 have to get out fast.
Mata completely whiffed his ultimate there, but RNG's going to continue to press on a little bit.
Still very scary is Xiaohu, but RNG do not execute the fight as well as they'd like. They do secure the Dragon, however, despite a valiant effort by Trick, who then looks to chase down MLXG.
And his spear actually hit MLXG because he smote the big Raptor. Not necessarily related to that last fight, but Trick has had a Dark Seal for about the last 5 minutes. It's probably the first time I've seen a Nidalee build the Dark Seal. It's not synergizing much. It's helping his refillable potion a little bit. And maybe at some point he's hoping to snowball this game with a Soul Stealer, but I really don't like that buy. It's just kind of wasted gold in his inventory at the moment.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, he does manage to get his Rod of Ages, too, so he starts stacking that up. Maybe a bit later than he would have liked because of it, but
just stack as many things as he should buy. Tier next. Get all that deferred power into his build. No, Nidalee needs to take over the game early.
Yeah.
And you don't need a Dark Seal to do it. He's working on his Rylai's, which I think is the proper build after the Dark Seal, which shouldn't be there.
Yeah. G2 still, despite the setbacks, have managed to hang out in the front with the gold, but things start changing when neutral directions start meaning a lot more. 2 dragons to RNG. They've gotten all the Rift Heralds. Baron is about to spawn. And RNG maybe don't want to take that quick, but with all the map control they've exerted, it's going to be hard for G2 to contest.
Yeah, RNG don't actually have the best Baron team as far as how quickly they can do it, which I think will give G2 a little bit of breathing room. Also, G2's been able to get all these wards up around the Baron pit. If you're thinking about who's actually got a better Baron team, it's G2. Nidalee can speed up the attack speed of either Lucian or Azir, and Azir is one of the best Baron-killing champions in the game.
Plus, they've got Kickus to be able to knock out anyone who attempts to smite steal. It's still very risky, though, and, you know, G2, they've been burned by so many of these games so far that have been risky plays. Not just risky plays, but a lot of that just sunk them. And I think they might think twice about this one. It shouldn't be an early Baron game, that's for sure. But Xiaohu, he's still looking for picks. Oh, good ward down by Hybrid. It's going to get cleared, but...
I mean, he needs to keep looking for picks, but G2 is also very cognizant of that fact. He didn't get a one-shot. Trick is Nidalee. He can heal back up.
Siege is on,
looking pretty strong for G2. They're setting up Siege. This is what their team comp wants to do.
Yeah, it's what we talked about the picks and bans right now, and just keep denying the insta-kills here. Hybrid does have the chains on him, but RNG seemed a bit hesitant to go all in on this one, especially with the Azir turret. Now Kickus around the backside just walked it, and he forces Xiaohu away. Parallel Convergence is on. Hybrid and Trick, they're a little bit caught for a moment. Perk's going a little low in this one. He flashes, and they get a heal on him, but they turn for Xiaohu. He's not going to be down just yet. Emperor's Divide to push him back. Poppy looking for the chase down, and this fight is incredibly messy, but nobody dies.
How does that happen? Everyone's alive. Xiaohu gets out with the sliver because he can elude Kickus, who flashed over the wall to stop him, and that kind of goes to show a lot of what we're going to be seeing in this game. G2 trying to set up a siege, RNG pressing the go button in Sivir's ultimate, and Mata burned his flash on top of it to try and get the ultimate down to stop them, but they still couldn't get the kills.
Yeah, it all started with this bit of a pincer that G2 found themselves in.
Exactly, so the Blanc is down on the bottom side, and Xiaohu and Hybrid gets chunked out, but he pops his ultimate off. The Poppy ultimate doesn't actually stop them from coming in, and the Braum ultimate kind of bisects the fight. Miraculous that Xiaohu can get out of this one. It looks like Kickus. That's the Blanc for you.
Yeah.
Not as miraculous as I thought. He just pressed his buttons right.
So Xiaohu eludes death yet again. But G2 and RNG, both very trigger happy with these summoner spells. And really, really close fights all around for both teams. But credit to them for not losing a man, either side. And that is a decent bit of damage for MLXG.
Yeah, and you look at how much damage RNG did in that fight. It's tragic for them that they didn't actually pick up a kill with all of that. Right? That's at least 5,000 damage for all of those guys combined, and wasn't enough to take down a health bar. Their focus, they weren't able to lock down someone, and that's one of the flaws in their team composition. I think it's why they tried to pick a Sivir, because they were seeing G2 had very good siege potential. They think, crap, we need engage. So they picked the Sivir, but it actually wasn't enough in that last fight.
Yeah, now this tower with MLXG having to back in the top side goes down, really without a whole lot of hassle. Looper looking to try and flank around the side, but nobody's really in position to do this, so G2 get a free objective.
Yep, and we say free, but they work for that. Like, that was the second or third time they tried to siege up.
They paid a couple installments earlier, but then they got to collect on it. But Perks now, look at how low he's going in this. He sends the Emperor's Divide, but Wooge sends him all the way back to base the long way. Now Emperor trying to hold on, but Mata with the Unbreakable will mean that this turret does not last very long there, and 300 is now the gold lead for G2. Not much.
Yeah, and that's the cost they paid for that mid lane turret. It was free at the time of purchase, but there was a payment due the next week, and they had to pay with their own turret. They'd used the flash previously on their other siege attempts, and then when the Sivir ult is popped for the next time, they don't have the flash to escape, and Perks was also a little bit too far up.
I'm never buying anything on credit again.
It's really just, it's not the logical thing to do.
No. So Perks goes down in that fight. He's 1-3-1. Still definitely not his worst performance, and they are really gunning for him here. Let's see how this happens. Xiaohu goes in, half his health's gone, and then the rest of the team arrives. I
mean, really how it happened is the Perks was just where he shouldn't have been. The rest of G2's team was spread out around the map. Poppy top lane, Alistair in the river, and Perks was up there with no flash. He should not have been there, and that's not a play Perks had made much in the regular season, but it's becoming all too common in MSI.
This is true. So still a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, positionally and otherwise, but we'll see if they can maybe capitalize on Xiaohu's mistake. And they pin him into the wall, not escaping this time. Trick with the auto attack will finish the job. And now the Dragon started for G2. This will be their first. This will definitely give them some fighting boost.
And that's an example of why Poppy can be very good into the LeBlanc. Good choice there for Kikis to have it up, gets onto the Blanc, which is a fault to Xiao, who couldn't escape quickly enough and also didn't have the team to back him up. But it's a constant battle of Xiao, who trying to get in flank position for these fights against G2, as G2 is very good at knocking people away from fights, and they even it up once again.
Yeah, not much RNG can get out of this. They try to do a bit of counter jungling, but not able to push on towers. You can still see Emperor and Hybrid pushing on that bottom side. It's going to be a couple of tower trades.
Yeah, Xiaohu's still dead. Wu's trying to push up the mid lane. Maybe they can trade it, but they're so far behind in the tempo of this play. It would continue if they go for this. Wu's just trying for it, but it's going to be really hard for RNG to defend their inhibitor turret, most likely losing it because they didn't all recall once.
Cold feet for RNG, but they hesitate too long. This is going to be an inhibitor turret. Xiaohu looking for a hunt on this one, but that's down 25 minutes in, and G2 are looking for the first inhibitor of the game.
This is just like MSI right here. G2, though, overstays a little bit, and they're trying for a fight.
Yeah, but you can see G2 collapsing altogether. A teleport in for Kikis. Now they will finish this one off, but will they pay for it dearly? Inhibitor is taken. Xiaohu around the side, still looking for this pick. MLXG just finished his back.
Yeah.
G2 just got away with burglary.
They're all fake initiations, so G2 knew that MLXG wasn't there because when Kikis teleported, MLXG was actually right beside him. So when they popped the Sivir ultimate, G2 knew they weren't going to fight. They could finish the inhibitor. It was all a bluff, but G2 already knew their hand. You can't bluff if they know your hand. Yeah. RNG loses their inhibitor because of some bad strategic calls, late recalls, and now they're going to try and make up for it with the Baron. But remember, they don't kill it very quickly.
No.
This is on G2 to recognize the space on the map they have just left, and they have to get there.
Trick is racing for it, but Xiaohu's around the other side. Baron's already down to 3,000 health here. No one's coming in time just yet. Trick has arrived, but they are collapsing around him. This time he flashes away. Baron is secured here by MLXG, but the fight is not over yet. Most of RNG escaping. Xiaohu is on the wrong side of the map, however. Let's see if they can at least get the consolation prize.
That is how you do it right there, and maybe Xiaohu can be LeBlanc.
I don't think so this time. He nearly takes Trick with him, though. So Baron power play to RNG, but they lose one man for it, all said and done, and the inhibitor's already down. This game just keeps getting more and more interesting, Jet.
Oh, absolutely, especially when you think about what it was like coming in. RNG undefeated, 5-0, G2 looking like they were just completely tilted coming in, 1-4, but they're playing themselves into this tournament, and they're dead even in gold, facing now a Baron buff, and that sneak from RNG, despite them making a very poor call to defend their inhibitor beforehand, was a very smart call to go for it, especially in the way that Xiaohu and Mata attacked Trick the instant he went close to Baron. We've seen way too many Baron steals at MSI here because teams are not paying time to the enemy jungler, but they did it this time. Trick had to flash away, which let them secure the Baron.
And as it stands, G2, despite facing down that Baron buff, are able to start pushing lanes out. Xiaohu's had to go top to answer back here. Wooge in the mid lane. There just aren't a whole lot of minions to really work with, and with supers in the bottom side still for G2, it's going to make RNG's life hard trying to push out, trying to even split across the map. Of course, not looking too partial to the 1-3-1 when you're all moving yourself towards the mid and the top.
Yeah, definitely not.
28 minutes here, and this gold, it oscillates, but it is never far away from either side. And just given results, this is definitely impressive showing from G2 Esports.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot during the regular season about G2 and how they were able to kind of bounce back within a game. They'd make a mistake, but they'd keep the pedal to the metal. They'd keep going. Well, how about bouncing back within a tournament? Can they do that too? Because they had such a bad opening to this, but now they're up against the current #1 in the tournament after getting first blooded, and they have recovered. They're trying their best to play to their compositions. Win condition, it's been a back and forth game, but they're looking to push it home.
See if they can break another part of the base, but Looper and Xiaohu might have something to say about that. The flanks, though, are going to be spotted thanks to Courteous Ward from G2. Gold dead even on the board. Baron empowerment versus the G2 push. Will it be enough? Not yet. They have to back away with the culling.
Yeah, Looper is actually behind G2 right now, and Xiaohu is off to the side, but RNG is far too spread out to really do anything with it. That's the only way RNG can stop these sieges, though. They can't just get poked out by these, or they have to threaten to flank, and G2 had to respect it and back away.
Yeah, still super minions on this bottom side, and Xiaohu's had to go on cleanup duty here. Both mid laners, actually. Really similar scores. This is not something we expected to see from the ace on RNG.
Yeah.
Especially not on the signature LeBlanc. And G2, you know, it seemed maybe very scary that it was left open to him, but it hasn't really been as much of a problem.
Yeah, I think earlier on in the game, after he'd gotten the first blood, the play where Xiaohu came back to lane and then used his distortion, his Mimic's distortion onto Perks, was actually very similar to a play he did to Faker earlier on in the tournament where he killed him and extended his lead. So I think Xiaohu was like really in his element when he made that play, and G2 was completely ready for it and shut him down. And ever since that point in the game, Xiaohu just hasn't been the same LeBlanc player. He's had a little bit of hesitation in his moves.
Yeah, and that is also worrying for what has otherwise been an incredible, incredible performance out of that mid lane. Mata has also had a couple of mistakes of his own, so we see a few cracks in the armor of the Chinese side, but is it going to be enough for G2 to break through? They've got one part of the base, and they're still holding firm across the rest of the map. As long as they stick together, it seems like it's working out for them. Dragon's going to be up in 15 seconds. G2 are definitely going to want that.
Yeah, so there's a few things we'll have to pay attention to in the next team fights. It'll be the quality of the initiation, the setup, and then also the difference in the itemization from the AD carries. Emperor had gone for an early maul of Mount Mortius. It's defensive, it's to stop the assassination from Xiaohu. But Woosh has gone for an early Infinity Edge. And when Sivir can crit, 70% crit in these fights and gets a few hits off, it will be huge. But this Dragon is so early, and they're about to fight.
Press the go button. It's going to be Trick that secures it, but Emperor's going to pay the price for that. Mata with the kill. It's a 1 for Drake, but Hybrid is left for dead, and Woosh slays him. 2 now down. G2, they've got to run for their lives.
Yeah, they just overcommit a little bit for that Dragon and get collapsed upon. All of the setup that they had for the previous fights just wasn't there on that one, and Woosh can just press the go button. No one is there to actually return damage on his Infinity Edge low defensive Sivir build, and they're going to look to take even more off that fight.
Yep, 4 members here from RNG as they sent Looper back to deal with the encroaching mini wave. See if they can crack anything out of this one. 20 seconds still remain before Emperor's going to be up. 12 on Hybrid. Perk's a little low for this, but RNG, they're not keen on diving in, and this might be the defense.
Yeah, this is actually one of the newest looks from RNG as we move towards MSI, is they're not going too far on the play. They're like, oh, we got 2 people dead. Maybe they would have just taken Looper and tried to dive an inhibitor while leaving their minions open.
Oh, but
Mata, though, is out of position. That's a Rylai's Spear. It's going to slow him.
Does get stand behind me, and now Woosh pops on the hunt. Spell shields up. The Spear stays alive on that one, but G2, they prove they still got teeth to bite back as soon as they can. RNG still not overstaying. They will make it out there. And there is a sneaky little pink board on that side of the map.
Sneaky, I don't know what the purpose of it will be. I mean, eventually Looper would be able to teleport back in, but at the moment.
I had this explained to me, though.
There's a chance sometimes when you walk through here, you'll see a team rotating around and you could sneak a Baron. So if they don't clear that ward and they're still messing around red buff, RNG could potentially sneak another Baron. That would be the highest use for that ward.
Yeah, it's very possible. Looper's going to get his back on as Kikis is clearing out mini waves. Still a naked inhibitor in that bottom side, and no such thing in G2 space. They've still even got an outer there, or an inner rather. Maybe not for long as Xiaohu crashes a big mini wave into it, but G2, they're already back to siege mode.
Right, and here we go. One of the reasons this game is so low on kills is because G2 has so much disengage, but you have to imagine eventually this game is going to crack itself wide open, and they're going for it again. RNG have some pretty powerful items right here if they're able to force a fight. And Kikis is also not here, so his arrival to the fight would be delayed, and it will be harder for him to disengage with Poppy.
There's a whole load of wards, though, that he does have to be able to get into this one. Azir turret self-destructs, or gets taken out, rather. Still the siege commences, continues. RNG just looked for an angle back into this one. Looper having to dodge and dive away from Emperor. Baron's going to be another factor again in a minute, though, and G2, as you mentioned, have a very good Baron team to try and force RNG out of their turtling. The amount of knockbacks G2 have is very high, and they also have good execute damage from the Nidalee, and they also have really fast Baron taking with the Azir, so that's why RNG has to move up to check this. But RNG kind of just want G2 to be posturing, honestly, so they can get a fight around the backside. Yeah, G2 started to force them their way into that jungle. Pulverize is down. Nobody wants to check too far forward. Mata does take a little bit of poke and harass. Kikis might be wandering into the trap here. He sees MLXG and Woosh. Presence is down. Xiaohu might want to get poke in. There are Azir soldiers. Mata goes in. Mata gets the fissure. Emperor survived, but look at Perks' health bar. He has to get out of there. And Hybrid flashing away. Abort mission. Kikis with the windup on the Poppycopter, but nothing's going to come of it. Looper still looking for more. Steadfast presence. Kikis able to push them back.
This fight is so scattered right now. Hybrid is way away from home, and Woosh is trying to chase him down. But that was just a disengaged fight after they couldn't get it. He's trying to execute. He might be able to. Nope.
Woosh takes him at the end of the day. So only casualty of that very long extended fight. RNG just keep trying to find the ends, and G2 keep denying most of it at least.
Yeah, so close with Xiaohu to be able to kill Perks right there. And he's working towards his death cap. When he gets that, that will be a dead Perks if it happens again. But Perks is able to cleanse off. I thought he was ignited. He actually was not even ignited there. Cleansed because he thought he would be ignited.
If you're Perks at this point, though, knowing that that damage threat is just so ridiculous, what do you do? What can you build?
Zhonya's.
There you go.
Yeah, he's on his way. So it's a race between Zhonya's Hourglass from Perks and Death Cap from Xiaohu.
Yeah. Speaking of item builds, too, we got to take a little bit just to go into MLXG, because I know this is always a fun one with the Death Dance. And he's been fairly scary this game as well.
Yeah, he's gone extremely aggressive with his Graves build this tournament. The Graves build that most people were familiar with when he rose to popularity was early Maw of Malmortius and then also with Sterix Gauge. But MLXG has gone Phantom Dance or Death Dance like every time. And now he just has the Maw thrown in there as well. He might even finish it with a Bloodthirster and an Infinity Edge, which is actually what he did in the 50-minute game against SKT, which is massive in team fights. Like, that Graves is actually equivalent to like a full item 80 carry, not what you consider as a jungler, and it's just pumps out way more damage than Nidalee would.
Well, and he was soloing out Emperor, as we saw earlier, too, so RNG definitely still a lot of power in their corner. A lot of vision, however, for RNG now that they've managed to establish some more spots that they can really get involved in over by this Baron pit. Clear's going on, though, as Hybrid steps into the pit to do it, but Mata and Woosh are here. They're going to actually proc the Baron for just a second. And it's going to be quite the dance, but for the moment, RNG might be trying to knock down the front door.
Yeah, it's really just a cat and mouse game here, trying to sneak through wards and get a little bit of advantage. Still going to be the same game, though. RNG will look to get a flank and maybe kill Perks at the start of the fight.
Oh,
but G2 would want a little bit more setup before theirs. Obviously, any poke damage you can land is
huge at
very
this point.
Huge.
Mata's got to get out of there. He uses the Unbreakable. Are they going to start turning for this Baron bait? There is actually a ward here. Teleport is in. They see this coming, but Kikis is caught. He's got the windup. He knocks away the Sivir, and they turn the fight onto MLXG and the Looper. Xiaohu is looking for the execution, but Perks knocks him, or rather, he gets dodged out. Can't quite get the execute on that one, and Emperor has gone down as Mata gets the kill credit with the Ignite on that. MLXG running wild. This just might be the game. G2 were looking so good, but one fight could end it all, and Trick is the last man standing here, trying to leap away, play catch the Nidalee to Looper, but the rest of the team is not falling for that.
Yeah, he's running the way, but Looper is on him, and that's everyone else on G2 is staring at a gray screen. This is RNG pushing down the mid lane and looking to start 6-0 at MSI.
Undefeated team so far, and we can certainly see why. The game is just so damn even all the time, but in the end, it's going to be finally the ace. Woosh getting that inhibitor after it's all said and done, and there is no one left to stop this team. RNG, Royal never give up. Take the Nexus turrets, take the game, and look so damn strong here in MSI Shanghai.
And they have yet another win where the game is actually pretty close the whole time, but they are just better than the competition at finding the right fights down the stretch. People criticize them for their macro movements. They say they can't lane swap. This game was a lane swap. This game was close, and this game was another RNG victory.
And it came all the way down to that final fight in the end. Not perfect, not always clean. But when you come to China...
Apparently you play Chinese League of Legends.
And they play it the best!
And RNG, guess what? They're the best team in China. And they still are. Everyone included in this tournament so far with the 6-0 start.
Magnificent performance. And for G2, it's a heartbreaking loss. But despite it, we are seeing the improvement.
It's true. We're seeing the improvement on the Rift, but it doesn't show when their Nexus still falls, which has got to be crushing for these guys, because this was a chance for G2 to get back in it. Really, the disaster scenario for them is they finish 5th or 6th. And with CLG sitting at 4 wins, Flash Wolf sitting at 4 wins, SKT sitting at 2, but is still SKT and expected to improve, it's getting really difficult for G2 in their last 4 games. to make it into the bracket stage.
Yeah. The one saving grace, they did manage to pick up the win over Supermassive, so we'll have to see. And they still got one more left in their pocket. But you really can't call anything. It's ridiculous how these games have gone.
Yeah, even this game could have gone either way. RNG played a lot better down the stretch. G2 was never able to set up the right siege because the Sivir pressure along with the Echo and the LeBlanc flanks was just too much for them to keep track of. And then right at the very end, LeBlanc was a menace in that last fight. Xiaohu, like we didn't really get to see it off